Go.
Alright guys, we're fishing simply with the matrix shad, like a 5/16 jig head. What we're going to talk about today is night fishing. This is a great way to beat the heat in the dog days of the summer. Fish really like to feed at night when you get into those July, August, September months. Fish on. Nice little trout there, little troutski. Now at nighttime, especially when you're fishing dock lights and such, you usually have to sacrifice on the size a little bit. Now this is a keeper in most states, but out here we're out in Florida this particular trip, which is 15 inches. So we're gonna go ahead and let that one go. And we'll give you some techniques and tips that I like. You can see the trout, I don't know if you heard that in the background. Trout just, it sounds almost like, there they go right there, they're busting the light. But some tips and tricks and techniques on night fishing. First thing I do, I like calm nights. So if it's a calm night, that's the nights that I like to go. When it's calm, you can really see on the surface really well. I won't just simply drop the trolling motor at every light I see. I like to idle. I'll be running down the canal or in the lake or bay, wherever we're at. Night fishing's pretty typical across the Gulf Coast. Gulf Coast is very similar. But when I see a light that looks promising, I'll get close enough where I can see the surface of the water under the light. Just slow down enough, and if I see some action on the surface, I'll stop. That's got some fish right there. Let's try this one. The first couple casts I'm going to make is just going to be a straight retrieve high on the surface. The fish are active, they're up high, they're eating. And then a lot of times what'll happen is you'll catch 4 or 5 in a row, and you'll notice there's not as many fish up high, and then that's when I'll change and let it fall towards the bottom. So typically I'm staying up high on the first few casts. Oh, there he was, missed him. You'll catch a lot of nice fish like that. And I like to just, with a matrix shad, put a lighter jig head on and just slow roll it. It's like a spinnerbait. And then if I feel like the fish are a little bit leery, you know, like I said, you hook a few, you might bump the dock with the lure, and you'll see the fish. You won't see the fish as much anymore on the surface. That don't mean they left. That just meant that they might have sunk down to the bottom. So I'll just simply let it go to the bottom and jig it like this here. They got some nice action in this light though. Some of that's ladyfish. There he is. Oh, he bumped it. He came on. Oh, there he is. Another decent trout here. And you don't always necessarily have to throw right into the brightest part of the light. A lot of times the nicer trout are going to be out in the shadows. That fish right there, I threw it out off the light, the center light, a good bit. I was kind of in the edge of the shadow. Straight reeled it like a spinnerbait or a swim bait high on the surface. I'm using the shrimp creole right here. Color's not too important. I like to use a lighter jig head though, 5/16 or a quarter when I'm doing this. And it's just a really fun time. You catch a lot of fish doing this. This is more like catching rather than fishing. It's very effective way to fish in the months, like I said, in the hotter months of the year. The fish really struggle to feed in the middle of the day this time of year. It's more of a daylight. They like daylight and they like nighttime a lot. When you're night fishing, you got all kinds of different style lights nowadays. So, you know, back in the day, it used to just be a standard street light. But nowadays, you got sodium vapor lights, underwater green lights, floodlights, street lights, all kinds of lights. They can all be really good. This is one of my favorite lights right here. These are square floodlights. They're sodium vapor lights. They're the kind that kind of portray like an orange hue. I find those are very effective lights, and the fish aren't terribly smart on them. Those underwater green lights are awesome. They hold a lot of fish, but the only problem with those is the fish are very smart on those lights. It's kind of like, I find, similar to you in your living room at nighttime. If you have the lights on in your living room, you can't see as well outside, where somebody outside can see really well into it. I just feel like the fish can see really good with those underwater green lights. A little try. We can go ahead and, I think what I'm going to do is try a little Matrix Mini right here, just because these trout are more your schoolie type, and see what kind of a difference it makes, because those Matrix Minis are great nighttime baits. Let me switch to that and see if it can trigger a lot more strikes. Alright, so I switched to the Mini because these fish are feeding on some glass minnows. It should trigger some more strikes. I don't have my ultralights with me, so casting it's going to be a little complicated. But we're going to definitely catch some on this. Let me turn the boat around. We're going with the tide pretty fast here. I still see the fish on the surface pretty good. There he is. I'm telling you, that Mini is nasty at nighttime. And don't be fooled now. Oh, and I missed him. I'll get another one. But that was what I was going to say, is don't be fooled. Just because it's the smallest bait in our tackle box, that was the biggest fish we've pulled off this light so far. That whole term, match to hatch, is very real. And at nighttime, a lot of times they're feeding on them little bitty glass minnows. So small baits at night can be very, very effective. Alright guys, so we just pulled up to this. This light's a little bit different. It's one light instead of two. It is a square floodlight style, but it's a white light. And the fish are popping on it. I saw them when I was idling past it. We're going to stop on here. I'm going to stay with the Matrix Mini at first. See how that works out. I see that some of these fish are pretty nice. And when you're approaching a light on your very first few casts, you want to be way out. And try to be very stealthy, get as many fish as you can, and then you can kind of press in there, get a little bit closer. Plus, it's a lot of fun to get in there close and watch the fish really swim around. But you want your first couple casts to be way off the light. You do not want to blow a light up by spooking them too quickly. Got him. Watch that one come up and chase it down. Another typical nighttime special. Got him on the ladies' night. Matrix Mini. Perfect frying size. Ooh, that was a strike there. Go ahead and let this one go though. These are the good eating size right here. Go ahead and release this one, see if we can get a few more. Good decent fish there. Oh, there went my Mini. We got one Mini left. Oh no, that was a glass minnow. I thought that was my Mini. My Mini's still right there. Just got to push it up on the hook. That shows you. Oh, almost lost that fish. That shows you what they're eating. Looks very similar to Mini when it fooled me. So you know the Mini's gonna fool them. So go ahead and leave this light alone. Go try to find an underwater green one. So we've caught them on the orange sodium vapor style, the white fluorescent style, and now see if we can find an underwater green one, catch a few. Nice trout at night. Finally snagged one on this light here. We had to switch up some tactics. We started off with the Mini. They didn't want it. We see that these fish are eating pogies. And like I said before, these underwater green lights, man, they hold a lot of fish. But man, they are certainly the smartest ones. This underwater green light here, it's probably got the most fish we've seen tonight, but we've caught the least on it. That's just because the fish are so much smarter on them green lights, but it's so much fun to watch them cruise through the light. It's just a really great thing to have, especially if you live on the water. You just come out here, you got your own personal aquarium. Using a matrix shad, full size at time shrimp Creole. Hope you enjoyed this episode of DockSide TV, beating the heat at night, showing you the difference between green lights, orange lights, white lights, underwater lights, above water lights. And one thing they all have is nice speckled trout. Make sure to check out all of our DockSide TV episodes, fishing daytime and nighttime from matrixshad.com. Until next time, good fishing.